Ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls from Lima Shenanigans of 1977, it's Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's time for the NXT Event Center Wrestling Report. And now here's the man that will bring you all the wrestling happenings from the WWE Superstars of tomorrow, Eric M. Lima.
Thank you very much, Mr. Announcer, sir. Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Lima Shenanigans, 1977, episode 2137 of the show. How's it going, everybody? It is April the 1st, 2025, 11:10 p.m. All right. I don't know about you guys, but, you know, April Fool's jokes, well, it starts getting old. And when you start, it gets worse now on the internet. You know, they all say, oh, something this happened, that happened. Guys, come on. Come on. The reason why I'm not responding to any April Fool's posts, because I know it's not true, and I ain't falling for it. So guess what? Ha, 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 you never got anything from me. Okay? So, no April Fool's jokes from me, no pranks from me, no nothing. I'm getting too old for this crap. You know what I mean? You know? I'm getting too old for these April Fool's jokes, man. Come on now. Be better, people. You know? Anyways, and besides, you only got, 49 minutes left of April Fool's Day, so get all your jollies in now, because I think once April 2nd hits, games are done, folks, and it will be halfway through the week. Over an hour ago, NXT has been over. Just a little friendly reminder about NXT. We're 18 days away from not only Stand and Deliver, but 18 days away from WrestleMania. As you know, we're 5 days away from Dynasty, so tomorrow's episode of Eric Lima Shenanigans 1977, one of the episodes, will be, I think it's after this episode, be episode 2139 of the show, because 2138 will be the Joker's Wild episode. Episode 2139 will be AEW Dynamite, Event Center. We'll talk a little bit more about that. As you know, it'll be the final Dynamite before Dynasty coming up. As you know, it'll be the final Dynamite before Dynasty on the 2nd, and then final Collision before Dynasty on the 5th. So, and then in between, we got WWE making its return to SmackDown. Wait a minute, not episode 2. Probably episode 2140, because we get WWE Evolve. A little bit more on that, because on NXT. Let's check out what's going on NXT. Stephanie McCare and Ava were both in the middle of the ring to address Stephanie McCare's brave title defenses, but Ava felt that it wouldn't be fair to her and the other women's division if she keeps defending both titles. So what they decided to do, and mutually agreed upon, even though it was not the most popular decision, was to relinquish the women's North American title, vacate it, but Ava made a match for Stand and Deliver, 6-way ladder match, and she'll have different qualification matches throughout the next couple of weeks. As you know, like I said, a little bit more than 2 weeks away from Stand and Deliver. So, so as Stephanie McCare says, I'll give you the title if you let me pick my challenger. Jordan Grace comes out, said, hey, it's about time that you and I went at it for the championship. And when Jordan Grace mentioned Jada Parker, here comes Jada Parker showing up and said, hey, I want my shot. Jordan Grace gets in her face. Before you know it, both women started brawling. And even Stephanie McCare says, you two need to work this out. Then Trick Williams addressed Obafemi on Instagram, whether or not Obafemi would enter the challenge, which Sarah Schreiber interviewed Femi, and he says, I'll give you my answer. It's not the one. I'll give you my answer in the middle of the ring. Then the NXT Women's Division in the locker room argue, mostly Lola and Fallon Henley were both arguing about who should get a shot at the North American title. Fallon Henley thinks that she's already qualified and all that. Yada, yada, yada. And then all these women started to argue, and believe you me when I say this, some of these women need to really shine. You know, I know Lola Vice wants a shot at it, and and everything else in between. So we shall see what's up. Then they had the first NXT women's North American qualifier in the ladder match. It is now Big E says talks about big meaty men slapping meat, but this is big meaty ladies slapping meat. I don't know what you want to call that, but anyways, they're both beautiful. They're both athletic. Zarya, the powerhouse from Australia. Zarya reminds me, okay, if you put the DNAs, if you combine the Legion of Doom with Beth Phoenix, you know, you got Beth Phoenix's beauty and grace of Beth and strength of Beth Phoenix with the faux hawk hair that she pulled and she sported when her and Edge faced Miz and Maurice at the Royal Rumble. Remember that? And then you put Legion of Doom's war paint. That's what Zarya reminds me of. If she was Beth Phoenix with the LOD war paint. If you think about it. And you know, and here's the crazy part. She looks gorgeous even without it. I'm like, wow. So I like Zarya already. I'm starting taking a shine to Zarya. She went up against Metaphor's Lash Legend, who's been fighting for championships. And Zarya ended up picking up the victory over Lash Legend. So Zarya is the first woman to qualify, first of 6 women to qualify for the Women's North American Championship in the ladder match. Meanwhile, Yoshiki Inamura and Josh Briggs, I thought Yoshiki Inamura was in love with Zarya. I'm like, oh no, here we go again. You know, I was like, here we go again. Didn't we do this before? Like Akira Tozawa having a thing for Tamina? Oh boy. But no, they were talking about Stand Deliver and said, he wants to make it to Stand Deliver. Josh Briggs says, well, why not, buddy? We can do it. And then Wesley, Tyson DuPont, and Tyreek Igwe interrupt them. He starts running their mouths. Oh, you ain't making a Stand Deliver. And then Inamura's about had enough of Wesley and challenged Wesley to match, and Wesley accepted it. Wesley, you may be a cardiac kid and all, but dude, you're going to be against a big man. Watch his match against Ivar. Yoshiki Inamura is a seasoned wrestler in Japan, that's for sure. Then Kaylani Jordan was talking to Ava, and she said that she wants to qualify for the Women's North American title. She was the first Women's North American champion. She wants to repeat history. But then Roxanne Perez interrupts them, and Roxanne Perez thought that having the Women's North American title will be a great idea, because if she grabs the title, she'll be the first woman to hold every single NXT title. She was a former NXT Women's Champion, a former NXT Women's Tag Team Champion, and if Roxanne Perez goes get the North American title, she'll be the first NXT female Triple Crown Champion. As you know, Johnny Gargano holds that distinction of being the first NXT Triple Crown Champion. Why don't you go back to NXT to go out trying to get the Heritage Cup? Meanwhile, and become the first ever NXT Grand Slam Champion. Well, speaking of being the NXT Grand Slam Champion, Tony D'Angelo, former North American Champion. Tony D'Angelo has held the North American title. He has held the Heritage Cup, and he's also held the Tag Team titles with Stax. He is one title away from being the first ever NXT Grand Slam Champion. Could an NXT title run be in the future? Well, we'll find out. But first, they have to deal with a problem. And that problem is Dark State, so they have each intel. Luca Crucifino talked about Dion Lennox. And then Osiris Griffin. But then Adriana Rizzo got Cutler James. I wonder if she's seen him in real life, though. You never know. Then Stax got Shaquan Sugars, and so that we got to find a way to beat them and all that. And Stax wanted to go right in and jump. I said, "No, you got to trust me on this one. Can you trust me?" And Stax goes, "Yeah." And I don't listen. Stax, says you're having it's your emotions talking right now. We can't talk. And you know what? Tony D'Angelo's right. You gotta plan, because these guys like playing mind games, and you're gonna have to. And sometimes you have to go in their backyard, when it comes to mind games, you know what I mean? You have to excuse me for I get a little twitchy sometimes. I don't know why. That's just me. Let me see if I can do this straight. So Stax will have to trust Tony D'Angelo on this one. So maybe a little bit of tension between those two. Gonna be very interesting to see how this develops. Hank Walker and Tate Ledger were talking. Were trying to wear like Pretty Deadly shirts and Pretty Deadly gave advice. Hey, you got to dress like us. You got to be successful, you know. And then the No Quarter Cash crew interrupts them and insults them, and then they say, they took off the shirts and said, you know what, let's go out there and kick some butt. And then both Kit Wilson and Elton Prince go, hey, you guys got this? Yes, boy. Sound like Pretty Deadly too. They're really cool guys. They're very entertaining dudes. You know, Elton Prince just became a dad, so and I think Kit Wilson's dating somebody else. I think, which is you know, but they're very entertaining dudes. So, I'll look that up afterwards. Let's see. Oh, in attendance for this. Actually, no, wait, hold up. The Culling addresses Shawn Spears winning the North American title, and they said, and he's talking about his first North American title defense against Shawn Spears later. Not Shawn Spears, Ricky Saints later. So Shawn Spears addressing his first title defense to Izzy Dane, Nico Vance, and Brooks Jensen tonight for the against Ricky Starks. So we'll see how that title defense goes. Hank Walker and Tank Ledger took on the No Quarter Catch crews Tavion Heights and Miles Bourne in attendance. Swipe right from WWE Evolve. Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes, both WWE ID prospects. And the No Quarter Catch crew does win the matchup. Then Trick Williams comes out to address Obafemi in the Performance Center, calls out Femi. Javon Evans interrupts Williams. You know, interrupts Williams, says, hey, it's not, you know, he's trying to calm down Williams. You forget about Dark State and everything else. And then Obafemi comes out, and he starts jaw-jacking with the two of them in the middle of the ring. A little trash talk, as usual. But then Ava interrupts all three men and decided to make it a triple threat match for the NXT Championship at Stand and Deliver. So Trick Williams is trying to go for a second time being NXT champion, and Javon Evans is trying to go for his first. So huge opportunity for Javon Evans. Really people started taking a shine to him, stepping up to the plate. And all three men decided, well, since we're going at it, we'll brawl. And they started brawling, but the lights went out. Here comes Dark State, and then Dark State took out Williams and Javon Evans. No. Evans, they took out Femi first, then Javon Evans, and then Trick Williams stepped in the ring. He was surrounded. He got beat up for his troubles. And so hopefully Tony D'Angelo is watching that and sees if he can find a weakness in Dark State. Andre Chase was in the medical room. It was not on timetable for cracked ribs. And then Kale Dixon and Uriah Connors helped him out. Hey, you guys not bad guys after all. And then about to cart Andre Chase on the wheelchair out. Jordan Grace and Jada Parker continue to brawl in the back and slamming each other before that garage door there. And that leads to a match next week as Jordan Grace will go one-on-one with Jada Parker. Maybe that will help Stephanie McCare make her decision. Now she's also forgetting, too, that Julia may be coming back. And she'll probably say, well, Julia's going to come back from injury. I want to face her, Stand Deliver. We'll see what happens there. And then Hank and Ted were talking to Fraxium, and then Nathan Frazier opened up his mouth, and Axiom was a little upset, and he said, hey, Miguel, you want me to lie to them? No, I don't understand, but, well, you can't be too harsh. And then they started going, and they said, you know what, thanks for the advice, we're going to get going. As Fraxium was talking, Swipe Right came up there and starts talking smack to Fraxium. He said, they challenged him to a matchup, not for the belts, but a regular matchup. He says, you're on, amigo. And Axiom's like, can't believe it. And then Roxanne Perez walks by them and says, she's not just a prodigy, she's a smoke show. Gentlemen, I don't think you want to date Roxanne Perez. As beautiful as all get out, Roxanne Perez she's got a little bit of an attitude that you're probably not going to want to deal with, boys. Stick to trying to win the tag team titles, and then the chicks will come to you. Swipe right. Remember that. That's what I'm thinking. So, speaking of which, that's the next qualifying matchup. Kaylani Joyner versus Roxanne Perez. As you know, Roxanne Perez beats Keilani Jordan, she'll have an opportunity to be the first NXT Women's Triple Crown winner. But Keilani Jordan put a stop to that, and she's trying to be the first NXT Women's, two-time NXT Women's North American Champion, and she is qualified for that opportunity by beating Roxanne Perez. So Zarya and Keilani Jordan are 2 of the 6. Who will be the other 4? We'll find out. Meanwhile, the NXT, the second, Stevie Turner and Robert Stone talked to Ava about, the match happening and all that. And even Stevie Turner says, I don't know how they got, how Swipe Right got in there, but I'll deal with it as such. And then Robert Stone talked about the triple threat, and then he said, Ava goes, I don't care about any of that. I care about that, but we got to do something about Dark State. I'm over it. And so we'll give them a match. And I said, you know what? It will be, I'll put them in a match in a 6-man tag. And who will their opponents be? The Stand and Deliver main event. And that means next week, 3 of the 4 members of Dark State will take on Obafemi, the NXT champ, Javon Evans, and Trick Williams next week. Going to be very interesting to see how that situation is going to go. My prediction is Dark State's going to win because those 3 guys are probably going to still beat the crap out of each other. Meanwhile, Sarah Strider interviewed Ricky Starks about his North American title match, and he's prepared, and he's hoping to walk away the NXT Men's North American Champion. We'll soon see. Zarya and Sol Ruka were out there. They were celebrating the victory, and Zarya goes, I appreciate if you help me be out there, if you're out there for me. And I got you back. And then Keilani Jordan comes in telling her she beat the best one of the greatest women's champions of NXT, and she's going to qualify. And then Saruka says she's going to have an opportunity to qualify. Zarya was kind of shocked about that, and she understood. It doesn't matter who wins, it'll be Zarya or I walk out with the women's North American title. So Zarya's kind of a little taken about it. Dark State responded to the matchup, and then he started, is Tony going to be watching? We don't know. So, and they addressed Evans, Femi, and Williams. So, that situation is going to be, like I said, next week. Going to be interesting. It could be the debut of an in-ring debut of almost said Darkstalkers. That's a Capcom fighting game. Dark State. So, I'm thinking that Shaquan Sugars will be at ringside, and that means Osiris Griffin, Cutler James, and Dion Lange will probably take up on the challenge. Talk about 3 big men in the middle of that ring. Hope Femi, Evans, and Williams know what the heck they're doing. So the main event, the North American title on the line, Shawn Spears against Ricky Saints. And this is the first time that 2 former AEW wrestlers are going at it for this championship. And first former AEW wrestlers main eventing NXT. Huge history in the making. But ladies and gentlemen, we have. The culling got involved during the matchup, but it backfired because, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the match and new NXT North American Champion, Ricky Starks. Let the revolution be televised. And while he was celebrating, Ethan Page attacks him from behind after a matchup. So, as Stand Deliberate, it could be 2 former AEW wrestlers going at it for the NXT North American Champion. If you make it a triple threat with Shawn Spears getting a rematch, there you go. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So congratulations to Ricky Starks being the new NXT Men's North American Champion. Well, that is it. That's all the time we have on this show. Episode 2137 complete. Tomorrow, we got the Joker's Wild. We got WWE Evolve and NXT AEW Dynamite. So, the final Dynamite before Dynasty, and in one of the matches, it'll be a women's action as a non-title match, as AEW Women's World Champ Timeless Tony Storm goes up against Penelope Ford. So be on the lookout for that matchup. So we'll see what happens tomorrow on WWE Evolve and NXT, and how I do against the Rotten Devil and the Joker's Wild. I did very well in Tic-Tac-Toe. The Devil's next on my hit list, and he's going to be destroyed. We'll find out what's going on with that. So, that's it. I will see you guys later. You guys have a wonderful night. And until next episode comes rolling around, Mr. Announcer, take us home.
That is all for today's episode of the show. This is Mr. Announcer speaking for Eric Lima Shenanigans of 1977. A Big Beefy E and Do It for Bob Saget production, and in association with a Raving Bull for 3000 Telepictures and Distribution. Thank you for watching another episode of Eric Lima Shenanigans of 1977. See you later on the next episode of the show. Goodbye for now.